Entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience crossed over with the DFS Edge. It's going to be me, Adam Levitan, and Adam Kaufman. But first, we need to tell you, rate, subscribe, review the podcast, give the episode a like if you're watching on DK Live or YouTube. And all of this is presented by Jägermeister. Give your beer a real shot this summer with an ice-cold shot of Jägermeister. Undervalued players today from beyond pick 100 in terms of average draft position as we speak before the real fantasy football season and the markets have been established. We've already covered all the players inside of the top 100. We have busts to come. I would like to call this sleepers. It is undervalued, but in order to draw the people in, if you don't call it sleepers, people aren't just going to find the video and pass it around. So, Levy, do you ever get into this where you hate the term sleeper because there's no such thing as a sleeper because it's 2018?
No, I don't think that's true. I think anybody going in the range we're about to talk about is a sleeper. But as you said, there's a lot of YouTube strat out there. Shout out to Doug Polk. Shout out to Joe Ingram, who are just crushing the YouTube strat game. All you have to do is put like something salacious in the headline of a YouTube video, like Phil Hellmuth loses $1 million pot, and all of a sudden you have like 200,000 views. I think for fantasy football, you could say like Pat Mayo's favorite sleepers that will win you your fantasy league, and you're crushing. So yeah, I think that it's a good strat there with sleepers, not undervalued.
Koff, do you have a problem with this? Because I don't. I think sleepers is great.
I have a problem with, the people listening to this, the audio version of this particular show take, our lack awareness in this. I have a problem with how terrible I look. This shot is awful. We've been doing these shows going from our nice professional studio down to kind of a secondary room. Now I'm just like, I look like a prisoner.
Well, they put you in the boiler room?
There's a like Milton from Office Space just fighting for my stapler, trying to downgrade it from room to room. I don't have any problem with sleepers. No, I think it's a good thing. I mean, obviously there's so much information that's out there. We know that because we're the guys that often are talking about it from different perspectives, clearly. But there's you can have such a surplus of information. That's great. There are always people listening, always people reading, always people viewing that want to know who's that one guy that somebody else said that nobody else has that'll give me the edge against everyone that I need to find in the middle or toward the bottom of my leagues. This is great. You have to have a sleeper conversation when you're going through so many damn names as across the entire NFL.
All right. Kaufman looks like he's about to be executed by Al Qaeda. He's about to like read like a letter.
Yeah, we can you please hold up the newspaper from today, please, just so we can prove that this is not a tape video?
Yeah, hold up a piece of paper and wink if you're in trouble or something like that. That's pretty much the territory that I'm in. No, everything's fine, Mom and Dad. I need some money. Just please send $200 to this wired bank account. Yeah, it's a tough scene right here that we're dealing with. Let's dive into the sleepers because we don't want to spend too long. We've gone long on some of our past shows. I think this is number 6, and want to make sure that we've gone round by round 1 through 4. We did the guys that you want to pay attention to 50 to 100. Now we're kind of getting into that 100 to 200 range where you can make arguments for a lot of guys, and there are certainly some busts, like Mayo said. We'll get to those in our next episode. But here in this specific one, guys that you got to have awareness to. You got to strongly consider ownership to. And each of these guys, Levy and Mayo, has come up with 5, although we might have a little bit of a crossover. But Levy, why don't you start? Who's the of your 5, the guy that you're most excited to tell people about because it'll help them win money?
Yeah, I think one that maybe is going the most under the radar is George Kittle. And if you miss on that top tier of tight end that I talked about, the Gronk, Ertz, Kelsey tier, I think waiting towards the back end for a Trey Burton or a George Kittle even deeper down makes sense. George Kittle is like a unique athlete from a SPARQ perspective, 89th percentile, 100th percentile burst score on Player Profiler, like 100th percentile catch radius, like really, really freak athlete. I think he ran a 4.52 at like 6'4", 260 at the combine. Played hurt all last year and still I thought looked pretty good. The Niners reports out of OTAs are that now that he's healthy, is moving really, really well. Not much competition there at the tight end position in San Francisco with Garrett Selleck behind him. So with Jimmy Garoppolo steering that offense in the right direction, with Kyle Shanahan there to steer things in the right direction, George Kittle, to me, makes a ton of sense as kind of one of these tight end flyers that you can get. I believe you can get him around the 115 mark in current ADP.
Yeah, based on ADP, does 115 feel appropriate to you?
115 feels good to me. I mean, like anybody, George Kittle's the kind of guy you have to know your opponents, right? Like if you're in a league with a bunch of people who are reading DK Playbook all day and on Twitter all day, yeah, George Kittle will probably go in this 100 to 110 range. If you're playing against your buddies from the office, George Kittle might go like undrafted. You know what I mean?
So Mayo, why don't we, we'll just go kind of one by one. We heard the first from Mayo, or from Levy. I don't know if you want to add anything about George Kittle, or you can move on to the guy that is the top of your board.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll probably stick with tight ends. I like Kittle me Timbers. He's fine, but I mean, 115 is a bit steep to pay when you can pick 174 for Vance McDonald, Vance Refrigeration. He's doing fine. In Pittsburgh, there's no one else really around him. Without Martavis Bryant around, I would guess he's now the fourth option behind Brown, Bell, and Juju Smith-Schuster. It just seems really, really low for a guy that I don't know if he's going to be uber consistent, but he could be based on the amount of times that Pittsburgh throws throughout the course of a game. So for PPR purposes, like you're not going to get big like 3 catches for 121-yard, 2 touchdown games where the athletic freak ability of George Kittle could provide that stuff. But if you just want someone to plug in that's going completely undrafted and you've just punted at tight end, Vance McDonald's going to be there. You can see him pile up some like 4 for 50 days, which isn't super exciting. But if you're just either playing, boom or bust at tight end, having some solidified points is always nice. Plus, you're going to have those games where teams try to scheme out Antonio Brown or scheme out Bell or scheme out Schutz, or where just leaning on Vance McDonald because he's just running unopposed down the field, that you're going to generate some like 8 for 90 games. Maybe he can develop a presence inside the red zone that I think it's worth the upside for a guy that's just not being drafted. So I like Vance McDonald a lot.
Well, it's a huge difference too, a huge drop between Kittle and McDonald, talking like 60 ADP spots based on where things sit in June, July, summer months. But I guess in terms of just general lineup strategy when you're going through your drafts, are you willing to sort of wait out the tight ends that way if you miss out on that top tier, those top few that we've spent so much time on, the Gronkowskis and Kelce's and Ertz as well? Are you going to let it filter all the way down to where the McDonald's are going to be available, or is that just kind of a plug and play in a pinch situation?
No. I mean, I would start the year with Vance as my tight end if I waited to the very end and see how that plays out. Now, the one good thing about drafting a tight end at the very end is you're not committed to that guy for any length of time. So if he sucks, you can cut him, and then you're spinning the roulette wheel at tight end every week. I would want to get Zach Ertz at the top. I think that Levy kind of nailed it. Trey Burton and George Kittle, where they're going right now, are just, they're good values. Now, if they start getting the buzz, they seem like 2 buzzworthy guys at the time we actually get to drafts. They might be a bit higher. That could force me to pass. So it would probably be one of those 2 guys, one of the very top tier guys, or if like your Kyle Rudolphs or Delaney Walker, just the unsexy tight end, if they just start sliding down the drafts because no one wants them, I could see myself jumping in around 9, 10. But if not, I'll wait till the end. I got no problem with that.
Levy, how about a QB?
All right. Let me give you 2 QBs. 2 of my favorite picks overall, Marcus Mariota and Pat Mahomes. Always been a fan of Marcus Mariota's talent. Playing under that malarkey scheme last year was just absolutely unfair. Did not get to reveal his talents whatsoever. I think getting the coaching regime in there will be so huge for Marcus Mariota, who has serious rushing upside. And we've seen him rip off some like 70-yard runs. Obviously had huge rushing numbers. At the University of Oregon, good weaponry around him with Dion Lewis coming in, with Corey Davis taking a step forward in year 2, with Rashard Matthews always underrated, with Delaney Walker, who Mayo just mentioned. It's hard for me to see Marcus Mariota failing. I see him in an ADP of about 143. Just goes to show the depth of the quarterback position. And then going in front of him is more the sexier guy, the guy that everybody's more excited about, or they should be more excited about, in Patrick Mahomes, who absolutely shredded last preseason. He was the one, like, people are very excited about Baker Mayfield. Patrick Mahomes beat out Baker Mayfield when they were both at Texas Tech. Baker Mayfield ended up transferring to Oklahoma. Like, Pat Mahomes is a total freak talent. Week 17, went into Denver. I thought him played well in his lone spot start last year, has rushing ability. Kansas City's defense is so bad, has ridiculous weapons with Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins and Kelsey and Kareem Hunt. So it's just hard for me to see Mariota or Pat Mahomes failing at their current ADPs of 129 and 143 respectively. I'll gladly wait for that spot at my quarterback, and likely, like, I don't even know what the schedule is yet for week one, but I wouldn't shock me if one of those guys was my week one cash game quarterback on DraftKings, depending on how the schedule shakes out.
I believe the Chiefs are at the Chargers week one.
Oh, never mind then.
Are you removing week one, but general season-long thought? Are you more inclined to go with a guy like Mahomes, not just because the ADP is better, but because of the offense that he has around him as opposed to Mariota?
Yeah, I think the ceiling on Mahomes would be higher given how bad their defense is. I actually think Tennessee's defense will take a little bit of a step forward this year and actually be pretty decent. But yeah, I like, matchups are so huge, and that's why I like playing on DK so much. Like, matchups are so huge, it wouldn't pain me at all to have both Mahomes and Mariota and play the guy each week who had the best matchup. Like, if you wait till the 12th or 13th round for your quarterback, you can afford to spend both your 12th and 13th round picks at the quarterback and play matchups like that. So I have no problem with that strategy either.
Yeah, and even
Mayo, you're getting lucky.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I do like Andrew Luck at where he's going right now. He's pick 123. I think that's an acceptable gamble. The problem is, by the time we get to late August, we're probably going to know if Andrew Luck is going to be playing or not playing, and that will severely swing his ADP. So if you're drafting today, I would just take Andrew Luck and just pray that he's good. If he's not good, screw it. You lost your 11th round pick. That's not that big of a deal. And you can still get a Mahomes. You can still get a Marcus Mariota. And this just really breaks down to what you're looking at in terms of why you wait on the quarterbacks. Like, Levy just threw out two that are going in round 11, round 12, and beyond. And in between, like, this is why you don't draft Drew Brees or Kirk Cousins or Jimmy Garoppolo or Matt Stafford or Matt Ryan or Jared Goff or Phillip Rivers. Like, you can just wait. Like, what's really the discernible difference between those guys and the Mahomes and the Mariotas? Like, worst case scenario, 2 fantasy points per game. Best case scenario, Mariota and Mahomes are just better than those guys. So when it just comes to overall strategy, like, you just have to pick and choose beyond your late guys at quarterback of who you think has the most upside. I actually think that Mahomes, Luck would have the most upside if he's fully healthy Luck, but I think Mahomes could actually rival him here. What do you think about like a rushing total for Mahomes, Levy?
Yeah, certainly has the ability. Has shown a tendency to want to stay in the pocket, which is, I think, is how he's been coached, but with good reason. I think when forced, he'll be able to run for, I hate to project guys for a ton of rushing yards at the quarterback position, even guys like Tyrod Taylor. I would never project for more than like 30 or 40 rushing yards a game. I think Mahomes in the 15 to 20 yards per game range would make sense, which doesn't sound like a lot, but, an extra point or two each week adds up.
I just, I listen to you guys and I think about some of the QBs we've talked about in past shows as well. And I get there isn't necessarily week to week maybe, but overall by the end of the year, if everybody's healthy, which they never are, there isn't a huge drop off from maybe that middle tier to guys that we're talking about right now. Luck, to me, it's clear, and Mayo, you hit on it. I mean, he's the guy that's really undervalued that you want to try and capitalize on. But I feel like, if it's a season-long league like I play in where you're drafting right around that last preseason game, great. You have all your knowledge at that point, and as you said, whether you want to take go with a guy like Luck, but by then, secret's out, and everyone's probably going to take him higher if, in fact, he's good. If you're drafting right now, I don't feel like I could go anywhere near him.
There's no risk. Where's the risk? So you lose pick 123? Oh no, people are picking defenses at that point. You get to pick Andrew Luck?
Sure. Well, I guess I'll put it this way, though, and I certainly operate differently than the two of you guys do. If I'm taking Andrew Luck at this stage of the game in round 11, 12, whatever we're in, I'm doing it as my secondary quarterback.
What?
I'm taking a second quarterback. I'm not doing it as this is the number one guy that I plan to rely on.
Yeah, but you're not planning to rely on Luck. You're going to know he's my quarterback or he's not my quarterback. And as we've just spelled out, there's like 4 or 5 guys beyond Andrew Luck in terms of ADP that you can feel pretty comfortable with as your starter. Even if it's like week 1, you don't want to test out Andrew Luck because it's a bit dicey up in the air. Just pick a guy with a good matchup. I don't know who the Giants play, but like Eli Manning is not even being drafted. Not that I love Eli, but he's probably going to be serviceable for most weeks.
Yeah, that's just where I get what you're saying. I just disagree with it. It's where and this is where kind of the rubber hits the road of season long versus daily fantasy and fundamentals that go into them. Like I'm all good when it comes to DFS, picking my matchups and going with a different QB every week or whatever.
What is the difference? If you're just going to play one roster and you're like, oh, this guy is undervalued, I'm going to start him as my DraftKings quarterback. Why wouldn't you just take that same approach to season long?
Because in my season long league, I don't like to do that with a premier position like quarterback. If I feel like I have a guy I'm more like I'm your worst enemy when it comes to or the guy that you hate the most when it comes to, doing like lineup construction and all that with season long, because I'm that guy that will set off like a run of QBs and make everyone else start to like I'll go up for a guy like Rodgers or whomever, even my guy Brady that you guys like to rag on, whomever it is near the top. I don't like to wait it out and wind up with an Eli Manning because I want to feel like I know what kind of production I'm getting. I mean, last year, case in point, Drew Brees screwed me like week after week after week last year when, sure, by the end, I could have just dropped him and picked up like a Blake Bortles and hope for success at the end of the – but I don't like to live that way with a QB. I want a guy that I feel like has a good chance every week to throw for 4 touchdowns.
But didn't you just point out that you drafted Drew Brees with that same strategy last year and it didn't work out?
I didn't know he was going to stop throwing and then he was just going to hand off all season. I mean, he like that was a bad idea, clearly, or at least it bit me in the ass. But I didn't think, most of these guys, barring health, are known commodities.
Well, you've been mathematically proven wrong, but that's okay.
It's fine. It's fine. Go to your next guy. I don't want to eat up this whole show having a therapy session about my championship loss.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move to a guy now who is a founding member of Team Preseason. His name is Kenny Golladay. Mayo had him on his list, scratched him off, and I quickly scooped him up because when it comes to betting on talent, it's hard to find a better deal than Kenny Golladay, who goes 6'4", showed incredible ability to catch the football in traffic during the preseason last year, played firmly behind Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, and Eric Ebron last year. Eric Ebron's 86 targets are gone, were not replaced by a pass-catching tight end. I think we could see more 3 wide receiver sets this season out of the Lions, just in an effort to get a talent like Golladay onto the field. So, there's not a clear path to playing time with Tate and Marvin Jones still there, but late in a season-long draft, if you just say, hey, I'm going to bet on talent and expect this guy to rise to the top, I think that's a very viable strategy in your flyer range, and you can probably get Golladay in the 13th, 14th round right now, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And if Golden Tate or Marvin Jones gets hurt, it's just full pants off, intercourse, Yahtzee, I mean, the whole thing. So, I think Kenny Golladay makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and you're looking.
Do you spend this kind of time talking about intercourse around like the house, or is this just your outlet?
Yeah, you know what? There's been a lot of talk about ratings, and we've talked about, what sells? Masturbation talk, sex talk, any kind of deviance in that regard. That's what sells. It's been proven. I know it. I can prove it. And it's just true.
So Mayo's sponsored by it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sponsored by. Maybe we should just rank like the best sleeper sex moves, and then it'll be the highest click video of all time.
That is the best idea you've had yet, actually.
See, it only took us 6 or 7 shows.
See, that will be our standalone show. I'm in on Golladay too, and especially like with no Eric Ebron around, that's just more targets to throw to better people than Eric Ebron, which is always just nice. And with a big body like Golladay, we've seen Marvin Jones kind of do it a little bit, but Marvin Jones will still get his red zone work, but if you can transfer some of the maybe Fells and Ebron red zone work over to Golladay, if he's just going to be on the field for that, you could see a lot of potential upside there. The receiver that I went with is just outside the 100 range. It's Alan Hurns at 108. Like, someone in Dallas has to catch the ball. I don't know what the deal with Terrence Williams is going to be, if he's going to be suspended, cut, who knows. But like, Deontay Thompson is there. Michael Gallup has been brought in as a rookie. You have Tavon Austin, Cole Beasley. Like, Alan Hurns had a lot of success in Jacksonville when he played on the outside. So maybe if they play him on the outside, like they did a few years back with the Jags, that maybe Dak Prescott will have someone to throw to. But if you're just going to take a gamble on one of these Dallas receivers, thinking that, you know, if they're not going to be super great, they're probably not going to run the ball 90% of the time, they're going to have to throw, Alan Hurns could be a big benefactor with that.
Yeah, I like Hurns. It's going to be up to Michael Gallup to see how quickly he can get up to speed. It would be surprising and kind of, I don't want to say uncharted, but unlikely for a rookie wide receiver to be able to come in and handle a really big workload. We know Des Bryant is gone. We know Jason Witten is gone. Alan Hurns was the clear-cut number one wideout for the Cowboys at OTAs, and I would expect that to continue through training camp and into the regular season. It's not often you can get a clear-cut number one wideout, regardless of who the quarterback is, regardless of anything else. It's not often you can get him after spot 100, and I believe Hurns is going around the 108 spot right now.
So taking a look at this right now, and again, we said coming in, we're getting basically a top five, not in a particular order per se, but a top five undervalued or sleeper or long shots or whatever you want to term them in that 100 to 200 ADP range. Mayo, I think you've run through, or Levy, I think you've run through all your guys. There's George Kittle, Marcus Mariota, Alan Hurns, who's on both your lists, Kenny Golladay, Pat Mahomes, Mayo with Hurns, Vance McDonald, Andrew Luck, Kenny Stills, and one more left as well.
Yeah, I'll say just one brief thing about Kenny Stills is I don't love Kenny Stills as like a week-to-week guy, but everyone on Miami just always gets hurt except for Kenny Stills, which is always nice. And he's really the deep threat that they have. So, like, if you need someone to plug and play, I wouldn't start him in any one of my 3 wide receiver spots or flex spot, depending on a 12-team league at least. But if you need, like, if you're down after a big Thursday and you need, like, a potential, like, 25-point week, Kenny Stills is just one of those guys that can go boom in a big way, that I always like to have one of those guys in my back pocket if my matchup dictates that I'm going to need to have sort of an outlier week to come back. Kenny Stills is always a nice guy to have on the team like that, and he's going to pick 135, so a deep threat that I don't mind. James White's the other one, though. I wouldn't normally have James White on any sort of sleeper list, but he's picked 151 in PPR, and like we've talked about the Patriots' backfield on different shows. You can't really trust them, but you can kind of trust James White's receptions, and we're talking PPR here. Like, he's not going to be a capable running back to most weeks, but he'll venture in there, and we know he's going to have James White weeks. But as a plug-and-play, as the season goes along, if he can stay healthy enough, James White is just someone that you like to have on the back end of your roster, that if you're not playing handcuffs late in the season and you do get some injuries along the way, that you can just kind of throw them in and be like, hey, there's 10 points. Sweet. Maybe it's one of those James White games where it's like 8 for 96 and you're like, ooh, maybe he'll get into the end zone too. So it just seems way too late. And there's not really a lot of decent running backs that are potentially playable from beyond 100. He is one of them.
Yeah, I was just sort of perusing the list. Let's see here. I mean, yeah, like you're practically in Peyton Barber, Bilal Powell,
like
Spencer Ware territory.
Chris Carson's a name that both Levitan and I have thrown out on like different shows now. Like, I think that he does have the potential to win that job.
Yeah, that would be a surprise. But guys will come up. I mean, I think it's early to start talking about the flyer range because you're going to see depth chart changes happen that will be notable for this range in training camp. So I think it's a little early to say, who definitively we should be taking in round 14, 15, 16 as just flyers that we hope end up getting playing time.
Yeah.
Well, why the hell did we do this show then, Levy?
Jaeger bombs.
Hey, that's as good a segue as there is.
All right. For Adam, I'm Pat Mayo. You can subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience and the DFS Edge podcast wherever you can download podcasts. Give the episode a like, and remember, drink Jaeger. Get all the Jaeger you can in there. And if you really want to give your beer a real shot this summer, give it a nice cold shot, Jagermeister. So again, for Adam and Adam, I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you for watching. Check out all the other shows in the description for all the ADP chatter. And we got Bus coming up next, so do not miss that one. All right? Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
That Mayo Experience! Experience!